Hello everyone, this is Dr. Y here, and today we're going to talk about a Scratch. You may already heard about the Scratch from here or there. You may already know that you can use a Scratch to develop the digital story, games, and animations. And in this series, we're going to talk about how to use a Scratch to develop the animations, the digital games, and how to use the Google and Amazon extensions to develop the applications in the Scratch. And also, we will talk about how to use the Scratch to program your Lego robots. But all in all, let's start from a very fundamental questions. That is, what is Scratch? So you can easily access a Scratch from goes to your browsers, typing the scratch.mit.edu and hit enter. And then you will simply get this website. By clicking on the Create tab, and you are simply be directed to this Scratch development interface. So from here, what you can see is Scratch basically is a block-based programming language, which allows you to piling up these different blocks on your left panel and then put them together, and you can have some very simple animations like this. So you can easily see that Scratch again is very straightforward. It's a coding language with a very simple visual interface, and which allows you to create the digital games and digital animations. The Scratch itself is maintained and developed by the MIT Media Lab. They're targeting on the children from age 8 to age 16 as an education tool for programming. So why do we use a Scratch? Using Scratch can promote computational thinking and problem-solving skills. For example, if you want to move your characters or sprite from this corner to the bottom right corners, and what steps you need to implement, then you have to find the suitable blocks right here, piling them up and make them as a sequence in order to implement your functionalities. So during this process, the computational thinking and the problem-solving skills will be promoted. Secondly, Scratch can provide creative teaching and learning. For example, as educators or teachers, you can use some Scratch math games and then have your kids to play with it. So by playing the games, learning math will not be a boring process, but easily they can pick up the math and they are willing and they are motivated to play with the game. Through that process, their mathematical skills will be sharpened. Thirdly, as you can see right here, Scratch actually is very straightforward to use, and you do not need to install any software on your PC. All you need is just the browsers. And with the browsers, you can easily access this interface and then do the codings by piling up those blocks to implement your functionality or to implement your digital games or digital stories or digital animations. But one more thing I want to mention is right here is, even though the Scratch provides a web portals, you can also go to the download tab, which is on the very bottom right here. And then the Scratch actually has a applications you can download and install. This is optional. As you can see that Scratch these days supports Windows, supports macOS, Chromebook, and also Android. So you just download them and run the installations, and you can use them as offline development tools for your kids, for your students, and for yourself. Fourthly, Scratch itself is a block-based and visual programming, as we have mentioned. You do not need to have any computer background in order to use it. As a computer science teacher, I have been teaching computer science for over 10 years. So usually if you want to learn Python or Java, this kind of mainstream programming language. What you need to know is that you need to know how the memory works, how the CPU works. So in this case, you can better understand your programs and you can better understand how to make your program more efficient. But with the Scratch right here, you do not need to know any computer science information at all. So all you need is just simply follow the lines and get used to all the logical blocks right here, and then piling them together in order to implement your applications or digital games. Lastly, Scratch itself, again, is totally free, but it has a very large community supported. And you can see right here, we have extensions from big name companies, including Amazon's, including Google's, and also we have Joy Labs, and also the Legos. All these different companies, they contribute to the ecosystem of the Scratch, so that your Scratch is not a purely software. You can also integrate it with the hardware, which is the Lego robots, or you can have your circuit integrated. So in this case, you have a full package development for young kids and also for yourself. So let's see who is using the Scratch. Scratch is designed especially for age 8 to 16, but it could be used by people of all ages. The students, mainly they're from elementary school or even to high school, can learn Scratch. And the second big group of the Scratch users is educators. For example, the teachers in the elementary school or in the middle school and the high school. They can use it as an interactive teaching tools to teach their students, and also they can use this Scratch in order to stimulate the studying interest of the programming of their students. Thirdly is the companies. As we just showed you, nowadays more and more companies actually contribute to the Scratch, this ecosystem. Amazon and Google is already doing that, and also Lego is also doing that. And today, if you go to the Lego system, you can see that Lego Spike Prime or Lego EV3, they also actually have the Scratch-like system to develop the apps or develop the programs on their robots. So Scratch today has been used in more than 200 different countries and territories. And besides that, you can also see that Scratch supports over 70 languages. That means no matter in US or in China or in Japan, you can also use the Scratch to help your kids learn programming. Scratch is so good for young kids to study the programming language at the beginning phase, but it also has some limitations. This is because it is just entry-level languages. It's for the education purpose only. So in this case, it has a lot of limitations on these functionalities and on the implementations methods. So if you want to develop some complicated system, then using Scratch will be very challenging to implement. For example, if you want to develop some games such as the Fortnite or Apex, using Scratch will be very hard to implement those fancy games. So in that cases, people will choose advanced game engines like Unity's or Unreal, those kind of game engine to do that. When you're using the Scratch, make sure that you're using this as a entry-level programming language tool to help your kids or help your students to stimulate their interest. And when they're ready, when they get used to all these logical blocks and they get used to all this logical thinking, then it's time for your kids or for your students to move to another level of language, such as Java, Python. So I hope this video can help you a little bit to understand the Scratch, and I'll see you next time.